let's go ahead and go through some of the basic fundamentals of PHP now. Now, don't worry, because for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to be showing you slides based on the syntaxes of PHP. We are also going to be coding our very own PHP scripts at the end of this video. So if you think this video is going to be all slides and no code, that's completely wrong. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that we are going to learn in PHP is how to declare a variable. Now, if you don't know what a variable is, because probably you're coming from a non-computer science background with no prior experience in programming, well, a variable is a name given to a memory location on your RAM so that you can store a certain value in it. Now, consider this blue thing out here, the RAM that is in your computer, and we want to store this age inside. So we are going to name this memory location age, and the value it's going to store is going to be 22. Now, how you do that in PHP is basically say $, and then the name of the variable, which is age out here, and then you assign the value with the equals to operand, and then you go, this value is 22. Okay, so that was variables. Now, aside from variables, we can also define constants, and constants are things that don't change their value over time. So something like the value of pi is a constant. So to define a constant, we use the define keyword, and then we set the variable name, or the constant name in this case, and then the value of the constant, which is 3.1415926 in this case. Okay, now there are 5 types of data types in PHP. Firstly, it's integers, which is basically a number without any decimal point. Secondly, it's float, which are numbers that have multiple decimal points in them. Next is strings, which is basically a sentence or a array of words. Then the fourth type is boolean, which is a binary of true and false. And the last type is undefined, and that is when you do not actually give any definition to a variable or a constant for that matter. Okay, so we also have arrays in PHP. Now, if you don't know what an array is, well, it is a data structure that contains a list of elements, and most of the time these list of elements are common in nature. Now, these elements are mostly of the same data type when talking in computer science terms. So an array of integers will mostly carry only integers. Now, I've already defined an array just for an example. So first of all, you define an array like this in PHP. You say the array name with a $, then you use the array prebuilt function, and then you can put in your array elements. Out here I've put the words eclairs, Mars and KitKat, which are some of my favorite chocolates. Next, we have also functions. Now, functions are of 2 types, predefined functions and user-defined functions. Predefined functions already come pre-built in PHP. So something like the date function, which we will be seeing its usage while we are coding some PHP of our own, is a predefined function. And a user-defined function is something like this, which I've wrote out here. So I've made a function out here which adds 2 numbers and returns it. Now, these are the parameters that it takes. Now, num1 and num2 are the parameters, and add numbers is the name of the function. Now, functions are a beautiful way to actually reuse code and make your code much more modular. Next, we also have conditional statements in PHP. Now, there are 3 types of conditional statements. First is the if statement, then is the if-else statement, and then is the switch statement. We'll go through all of them when we are actually coding. Now, this is just for the theoretical part. So, if statements or conditional statements for that matter are used when you need to perform a certain condition in your code. So suppose you were saying that you're making an application for betting. Now, in a betting situation, you are normally comparing who won the bet, right? So this is a good example of when you would use a conditional statement. Now, we also have iterators in PHP. There are 3 kinds of iterators or loops in PHP. The first is the for loop, the second is the while loop, and the third is the do while loop. Now, iterators are basically used when you need to actually repeat a specific block of code again and again in your software. So we'll see how we do that. So this is how you actually define a while loop in PHP. You go while, then the condition of the loop, and then you're looping code. Now, while loops are entry control loops, as you might already know. And a while loop always checks the condition before actually executing the loop code. Now, the same can be said for a do while loop, which is an exit control loop. Now, this is how you define a do while loop. You go with the do keyword, then the loop code, and then the while condition. Now, you have to realize this is called an exit control loop because the condition is checked when exiting the loop. So the loop will for sure at least execute once. Then we also have the for loop, which has 3 parts. First is the beginning or the initialization part, where you initialize the iterating variable. then the condition where you are checking for a condition where you can exit from the loop, and then the step, which is the steps that the loop will iterate through. So if you say I equals to I plus 2, for example, this I will always increase by 2. And inside the brackets, you are going to specify your looping code that you want to iterate throughout. And the last thing that I want to cover for the basics is switch statements. Now, switch statements are also a type of conditional statements and are used to compare an expression. Now, in this case, we are trying to compare if expression is equal to case 1, case 2, or a default case where it doesn't match case 1 and case 2. So if out here expression matches case 1, this code of block after the colon of case 1 is going to be actually executed. If it doesn't match any one of case 1 or case 2, the default block is executed and then the switch block is completely exited. So that was all about programming and how stuff is actually generalized and initialized in PHP. Now that was all the basic syntax of PHP. Now let's get into the beef of PHP by actually coding some of our own. Okay, now if you remember, I had told you guys that PHP is a server-side language. So this means to actually deploy our PHP scripts, we need a local server. Now for my local server, I have already installed XAMPP and I'm serving an Apache server on my computer locally. And you can do the same by just downloading XAMPP and going through the configurations. I'll let you figure that out on your own. So let me just show you what I've created. So firstly, I have my Apache server running, as you can see, on port number 80443. And if you go into my files, you'll see that I have an index.html page created. So this is basically a form. Now let me just show you this form. So this is what the form looks like, and we are going to be using PHP to gather some data from this. Now if you remember, I had also told you that PHP is a fantastic language for gathering form data from HTML. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. Okay, now I've already created this script.php. Let's go ahead and open it with Sublime Text. Now let me just delete everything. Let's save it. And let me also show you this index.html. So basically it's the form inside the table and it's a student registration form just like I showed you. So first of all, PHP is embedded in normal HTML codes. So let me just show you how to do that. So you first of all create your HTML boilerplate and let's say this is called PHP demonstration. Right. Now to begin your PHP code, all you have to do is open up your PHP tag, which goes something like this. And you close off your tag like this. All your PHP code is going to come in between these tags. Now let's firstly show you how to comment in PHP. So this is how you post single line comments. This is also a single line comment. And this is how you post multi-line comments. Now if I were to just press enter, you'll see that the comment is not broken out. Okay, so that's how you do multi-line comments. Let's go ahead and re-indent my lines. Okay, so that was how you comment in PHP. Now let's do a simple hello world in PHP too. So to print out stuff using PHP, you go echo and then you just use double quotes and say, let's say h1 hello world. So since our output is going to be on a web page, we are going to use markup to actually output our stuff. So you say h1, you close off your tag, and all your PHP statements are going to be ending with a semicolon, which is going to be your statement terminator. Now let's go ahead and open up our local host, and you just go /script.php. Okay, so our script.php is being served on our local host, and as you guys can see, it's printing out hello world. Now if I were to just change this to a p tag and a p tag here, you would see the difference. So see, our hello world has now changed into a paragraph. Okay, now I had also spoken about predefined functions, and date is a very much used predefined function in PHP. So you can print out the date using PHP. So let me just tell you some of the formats you can print out your date in. So let me make a multi-line comment first. So these are the parameters you are normally going to pass in to your date function. Let me just list them out for you. So firstly, you can say H to print out your date in 12-hour format. You can also go capital H for 24-hour format. Then you can use the I flag for the minutes, the S flag for the seconds, the U flag for microseconds. Then for A, we'll give you lowercase AM or PM. Then capital I will give you full text for the day. Then capital F will give you full text of the month, and J will give you the day of the month, and capital S will give you suffix for the date like first, second, or third, or something fourth, something like that. And Y will give you the year in 4 digits, right? So let's keep this in mind when printing out our date. Now to print out a date, you can simply go echo and say date, because it's an inbuilt function, and you are just going to pass in these parameters that I just showed you to print out whatever you want. So suppose we want to print out the hours in 12 hours format, we also want the minutes, we also want the seconds, we also want the microseconds, and let's say we want the full text of the month. I also want the full text of the day, and that's it. Let's save this. Let's serve it now. Okay, so you see it shows according to my computer it's October 1st, and this is the time up till whatever we had specified. So that's how you print out the date using PHP. Now I had also told you that PHP is a fantastic language to collect form data. Now I've already created a form out here, and that can be served on our local host. So we have the student registration form where we take in the student name, the grade that they're in, the section that they're in, and also the class teacher's name. Now in our index you see that these have already been given a name. This name attribute is going to be used in PHP. Now you can access the values from the HTML that called this PHP script to execute, putting the names assigned in the HTML in single quotes. Now these are normally stored in an array called post. So let me show you how that's done. So first of all, let's remove all this. Now let's create a few variables. So to create variables, you use the $sign and say student name. That is going to be the name of our variable. Now our stuff is going to be stored in the post array, and this is going to be called student name in the HTML. And we always have to end our PHP with a semicolon. Now let me just copy this out a few times. So first of all, we have grade, then we have section, and we also have teacher, right? Now this is called grade in our HTML, this is called section in our HTML, and this particular thing is called teacher name in my HTML, right? Okay, so now to print out stuff, let's see. Echo, first of all, we are going to be saying h1 student information, right? Then we also want to echo whatever student information that we've already collected. Now we can use the dot operator or the full stop to actually concatenate a variable with a string. So this is how you do it. So suppose you want to say student name is, so space, then dot, and just specify the name of the variable that actually contains the student name, which is student name in this case. Then you can also say he is in whatever grade that you want to put him in. He's in grade, and let's put a space, and then the dot operator, and you can say something like, so basically we're going to say grade out here, then you go echo, and then you want to print out the section. He studies in section and space, and then the dot operator, and you want to say section. And echo, we also want to print out his teacher. He is dot by the teacher, by, rather just leave it as space, and a dot, and then teacher, right? Now every time somebody submits, script.php is going to be run, because that's the action that we have specified, and the method is going to be post. So let's save this, let's reload our page, and let's put in some data. So my name is Arya Paul, I'm in the 8th grade, which is section A, and my class teacher's name is Mr. Roy. So once you hit submit, okay, so it says unexpected echo, expecting, so on line 18. So let's see line 18. Okay, yeah, so see, I had forgotten to put a semicolon here, so that's why we got that error. So let's go back again, and let's submit it. Now you see, the student name is Arya Paul, he is in grade 8, he studies in section A, and he is taught by Mr. Roy.